week. The conflict in the Middle East had the oil market react a bit a couple of weeks ago, but that was short-lived. Oil prices came back down and stabilized.
And what's the weather going to be like?
Mostly sunny and becoming hot this afternoon with a high of 93 in AccuWeather. The real field temperatures in the upper 90s. Clear and warm tonight, though 74. Independence Day will be sunny and hot with a high 93. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Joe Lundberg on 104.1 FM KMOX.
It's sunny and 87 degrees right now in downtown St. Louis at 12:03. I'm Debbie Monterey, KMOX News.
This report is sponsored by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
If you need a new garage door, this could be your lucky day. Entries are now open for the $5,000 sweepstakes at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. A winner will be chosen at random to receive $5,000 towards new garage doors, openers, or front entry doors of their choice. Enter now at overheaddoorstlouis.com.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. And by Anderson Hospital, a Newsweek World's Best Hospital. Now the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
He swings, pops it up. That should do it. Horwitz, the first baseman, drifting into foul ground. He has it. This ball game has come to an end. The Pirates shut out the Cardinals for the third straight game and swept the series. The final today, 5-0.
Well, it's not been going particularly well for the Cardinals over the last week. Offensively, it is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX, home of the Redbirds. And we've got Bernie Miklas today and Chris Ranji with you. We are going to talk to Heidi Watney, who is going to be part of the coverage of the Apple TV broadcast, which is tomorrow. Wayne Randazzo's got play-by-play for that. Again, that will be tomorrow's afternoon game as the Cardinals will be at Wrigley Field to take on the Cubs in what is an important series. Yet another important series for this team, Bernie. But let's start with where we are right now, because going back to Wednesday of last week, the Cardinals have now been shut out 5 times. 3 times in Pittsburgh, they did not score a run. And I know the Pirates had been playing pretty well over about the last week before the series, but you still expect them to at least get one over the course of 3 games. Yeah, they face Paul Skeens. Yeah, Keller's pretty good. But, dude, you got to get at least one against the Pirates, don't you?
Yeah, I would think, the one that bothered me was the first game, because Andrew Haney is just a guy. There's nothing special about him whatsoever. And the Cardinals made him look like Sandy Koufax. It was ridiculous. That was the game they should have won, and they had a heck of a chance to win really the second game. So there were, I guess you could even make the case they had a chance to win all 3, but the bats just weren't there. This is a really bizarre season for the Cardinals. Like, let me put a couple things out there. Not only have their last 5 losses all been shutouts, which, by the way, I researched this morning. In the history of Cardinals baseball, which began in 1901, until now, the Cardinals had never lost had never lost 5 games. Not 5 straight games, just 5 games, even if a couple victories were sprinkled in. They had never lost 5 games all by shutout in a row. Never since 1901 until this series in Pittsburgh. And the other thing that's really weird about this is the Cardinals are 3-5 in their last 8 games. 7 of the 8 games have been a shutout. I mean, the Cardinals shut out.
Won. They had wins that were shutouts.
They shut out the Guardians in Cleveland in 2 of the 3 games. Then the Cardinals themselves got shut out, in Pittsburgh. And of course, they had been shut out twice by the Cubs. I mean, it's just strange. You play 8 games and 7 of them are you're a participant in 7 shutouts over 8 games. That's really kind of crazy, right?
So it is. It's nuts, and it also sort of highlights the thing that has been brought up, and I know that we've talked about it before, and other people have brought this up. Matt Pauley has brought it up, that this is one of those all or nothing offenses, it feels like, where there are games where they'll score 9 runs or they'll score 7 runs. That's plenty of offense to win a game. And I think a statistic that highlights it a bit for me is looking at what they've done since that first shutout on Wednesday, so just over a week ago. Of all the teams in baseball, you would think if you've been shut out 5 times in the course of 8 days, that you would have the fewest amount of runs scored of any team in baseball over the course of that stretch. They're not. They're like 25th. There are still 4 teams have scored fewer, which indicates to me that sometimes the offense is really there for them, and then other times it completely disappears. Like, they have very few games where, they score a little bit. It's either all or nothing, and maybe more so than we've given it credit for.
It's extremes.
Yes.
Here's the thing that's amazing. You go back to June the 14th. Okay, that's not that long ago. And since June the 14th, the Cardinals have won 11 games and they've lost 10 games. Okay. In the 10 losses, they've scored 4 runs total in 10 ball games. 4 runs total. In their 11 wins, they averaged 7.45 runs, and they never scored less than 5, and they scored 8 5 times. Now, I can't think of another stat that illustrates just this whole all or nothing with this offense. I mean, this is extreme stuff. This is like really drastic stuff. I think it's kind of fluky, but it's really rather remarkable, and it's pretty cuckoo, really.
Yeah, and I don't know what the explanation for it is, because one of the things you'll hear from the team, and I know they're not saying this is the reason, it's just the thing to note, that they are absent Nolan Arenado, and Wilson Contreras hasn't been available for the last few games, but that doesn't explain away why they've been shut out this many times in just about, 8 days period?
Right.
Even with those guys out, you should still be scratching across something. So clearly there's some issue here, and I think, Bernie, we're past it becoming, at least this is my opinion, I don't know that this is just a bad week. I get the sense that there is some kind of trend here, that there is something that is concerning for the rest of the season. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, that's the feeling I have right now, that this is probably an indication of something that's not good.
Well, it's certainly not beneficial. They pitch well enough that I'm not saying they're like a great pitching staff, but they pitch well enough to, like Palante the other night, to give their guys a chance to win. But the offense just shoots too many blanks, and it's nice when they erupt, but I would prefer, rather than having their eruptions where they score 9, I would prefer to just have them just more consistent in terms of, like, putting up 5 runs per game on a consistent basis, which is just that's basically just above average when you say 5 runs, because the overall average in baseball is like 4.3, 4.4 runs per game. So yeah, I don't like the extremes. I really don't. But if there's one thing I could identify about these shutouts, the 2 against the Cubs, but especially in Pittsburgh, Cardinals did nothing. They had plenty of opportunities against Pittsburgh to score. They were 2 for 23 with runners in scoring position. And in those 2 games they lost to Matthew Boyd and Shota Imanaga, they didn't have as many chances with runners in scoring position, but they failed when they did. So if you, especially if you're going up against good pitching, when you have a chance to get runs, you have to take advantage of them. It's not going to happen all the time, but you've got to get your share of meaningful hits with runners in scoring position. They didn't do that in any of the 5 games. So
I don't know if you just take it like that, if you really want to break this down. I'm looking at it from a pretty big picture, 30,000 foot view, that you can't get shut out that often in a short period of time and it be nothing. I don't know that I want to look at it and it be, no big deal. That just happens to teams, because it doesn't really happen like that. But if you factor in, if you're looking at this positively, if you want to take anything away from it, they did give themselves opportunities. It's not like in all of those games they didn't get anybody to second base. It did happen. There were a couple of games where they didn't really put runners in scoring position. You could say, well, all they needed was the big hit, and eventually those big hits are going to come back. If you want to look at this optimistically, right. Is that kind of a way to see it?
Yeah, because when times are good, we see the Cardinals hitting, 280, 290 over a stretch of games with runners in scoring position. That's really unrealistic and it's unsustainable. So it's going to level off and it's going to go the other way for a while. And it's really gone the other way for a while recently. But that also tells me that it'll kind of level off in a more positive way because it does even out. You are who you are over 162 games. And generally, you're not as great as it appears when you're doing great, and you're not as awful as it appears when you're doing poorly. And that applies to runners in scoring position too. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable because the Cardinals, I had a thing yesterday I put on X. The 2004 Cardinals, who won 105 games, had all those great hitters. They got shut out, what was it, 5 times? They got shut out 4 times all year, all season. This team's been shut out 5 times in the last week. Yeah. So it kind of puts it in perspective, doesn't it? So, I mean, look, they got to get to Chicago, and I've got modest expectations, no offense, but they've got Miles Michaelis starting the first game and Eric Fetty starting the third game. And so I think I'd be okay with them winning one of the 3 games. I as long as they don't get massacred, it's okay. And I know that there's more urgency now because the Cardinals have fallen, back to 5 games behind the Cubs. But we've seen them be down as far as 7 games to the Cubs not that long ago, and they fought their way back. But time's running off the clock, too. Right. You can't just keep doing that where you get hot, you're cold, you're hot, you're cold.
I mean, you could do it now. You can get away with that for 3 months, maybe even 4, sometimes 5. But when you get into September, if you're really trying to make a postseason, you can't afford to be doing this. So if they do what you say, if they go in and they lose 2 of 3, that puts them 6 games back in the division. It's not horrible, but it does. I mean, we're into the trade deadline month, so I don't know that you want to come out of this on July 7th and be 6 games out of first place. However, they are still tied technically for that final wild card spot with the Padres. And I think the Padres hold the tiebreaker right now. But so it's not like the playoffs are out of the question even now. I mean, there's still a lot of time to go. We're past the halfway point of the season. But in the wild card race, they are very firmly still in it. They could get back into it in the Central race. But if they have a bad series this weekend, that kind of challenges that quite a bit.
And to your point, the Cardinals aren't the only team that's in the thick of the wild card race that is just like going through these brutal stretches. I mean, until yesterday, the Mets had lost 13 out of 16. Mm-hmm. And that's a team with the $300 million plus payroll. The Philadelphia Phillies earlier in the season lost 9 out of 10 and looked terrible. The San Francisco Giants are going through a terrible time. They had lost, I don't know what they did yesterday. It doesn't matter. But they had lost 12 out of 16. The Padres had
win yesterday.
Yeah, but they've been in a bad way. The Padres have been in a bad way. They're under 500 the last 2+ weeks. Arizona keeps going up and down, and falling off the table and getting up. So the only team that's really been playing well, I'm talking about teams in the wild card hunt. The only team that has really played well consistently lately are the Brewers.
Milwaukee. There they are.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking at the teams right now: Mets, Brewers, Padres, Cardinals, Giants. In that order in the wild card race. The only team in the last 10 that's got a winning record is Milwaukee. Right. Everybody else is either 500 or well under 500. So it's not, a lot of these teams aren't playing particularly well except Milwaukee. And of course, what did we talk about this a month and a half ago? And I declared them dead because, Milwaukee, that's it. That's done. Well, apparently not. Apparently not. They do it every year. And here they are again.
And of all those teams on that wild card chase list, the Brewers by far have the lowest payroll. It's not even close. I don't know what to say. They just have a brilliant front office. They just find solutions, and you can't even you scratch your head like in spring training, and you look at the roster and you go, "Gosh, boy, they're a little thin." They're just really smart about personnel procurement. They really are, and I get a kick out of watching them just as a baseball fan because they do it every year. I'm like you. There have been a couple of these years in the last 5 or 6 where I said, well, I don't think
every
they're gonna be
year.
that good this year. I know. And I really thought this might be the year where they sort of come back to reality, but they're just too smart. They just find players just like hanging out on street corners and plug them in, and they pitch a 3-hitter or something. I mean, I don't know. It's really. Hey, one other thing, real quick. I like me, man. I'm a numbers nerd to the point of excess, but I did want to take note of this. It's interesting. According to Fangraphs, as of this morning, the Cardinals have a 37.6% chance of making the playoffs, which isn't bad, but they have other teams ahead of them, obviously. But Clay Davenport, who's kind of like the granddaddy of analytics in a lot of ways, and I've always paid attention to him because his projection systems are really good. So for Cardinals fans who would like a little optimism, I checked Clay Davenport today. He still gives the Cardinals a 50.6% chance of making the postseason. So they're still in it. They're still in it. But what are they going to do with it? But every time they fall apart, we generally have the reaction, well, they're kind of showing us who they really are. And then they win 7 out of 8. So one thing I'm trying to do is stay even keel, recognizing that this is just a very streaky team.
It is. It's inconsistent.
A bad streak doesn't mean it's over. But when they win and win and win, it doesn't mean they're great. They're just very streaky.
Well, before this stretch where they got shut out 5 times, they were 8-2 over the course of 10. So it's, there is a streakiness there that's pretty remarkable. And feel free, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, the Gashouse Gang, leave us a message. Aaron says, who cares about all the other tems? Only STL matters. Well, I hate to break it to you, Aaron, but they have to compete with these other teams.
It's called a league. They're a member of a league.
It's a division. It's a wild card. You have to pay attention to the other teams. You don't just get in independently. We will continue the conversation. Feel free to reach out via text or call if you want to, 314-436-7900. Heidi Watney will join the show and is coming up at 12:30. The Gashouse Gang, Bernie and Ranji on KMOX.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight. This is National Cancer Survivor Awareness Month, and we are joined by Dr. Lindsay Peterson.
And the program at Siteman Cancer Center is always evolving to address the needs of all of our patients. And so we want to know, what patients need, what we can do for them, and we want to make sure that we're providing those different resources for them.
Thanks to Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. For more information, go to siteman.wustl.edu.
Hi, I'm Jim Brennan with McKelvey Homes. All good things must come to an end, and this is your last chance to move to the Preserve. Choose for one of our 6 move-in ready market homes or our magnificent Turnberry display at Mackenzie and Watson Road. Enjoy the many trails, lakes, and loads of wooded common ground at this terrific location. Take advantage of the tremendous savings and special 5.5% 30-year fixed financing on select homes. Visit McKelveyhomes.com and move up to McKelvey.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/fax or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Hi, my name is Christina Straight, the owner of Straight Realty, and I'm asking you, what do you want in a realtor? Do you want experience? I've been a broker for over 21 years. Do you want to know how much I've sold? I've sold over $500 million, yes, $1 billion with a B, in sales. Do you want value? I now list properties for only 2%. So, if you're looking for all these things and want the best, then call me 314-441-4444. Why pay more than 2? You can also listen to my podcast on my website, straightrealty.com.
Commissions are not regulated and unnegotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri. We started Neovitin because we wanted to create a multivitamin for ourselves. That's why we focus on quality ingredients and formulas with our multivitamins. Neovitin 50 Plus multivitamins are formulated with over 20 vitamins and minerals, along with our 4-ingredient physician-formulated proprietary blend for the highest quality daily nutritional support. Give Neovitin 50 Plus multivitamins a try for yourself. Find them at your local Schnucks, Dierbergs, and online at neovitin.com.
Are moles tearing up your yard? Don't let these lawn invaders turn your beautiful property into a mess. Rottler Pest Solutions offers professional mole control services to protect your lawn from damage. Visit Rottler.com today to schedule your free inspection.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friend Mark Cantor at Cantor Injury Law. So as you know, I'm a lawyer, so I take this very seriously. Mark is a great attorney. He has a great team. He is from St. Louis. He is local. Call 314-628-9999 or visit CantorInjuryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertisements.
You asked, we delivered. KMOX, now on FM. Crystal clear sound at 104.1 FM.
The Gashouse Gang every Monday through Friday goes from noon until 1 on 104.1 FM KMOX. Talking a lot of Redbirds, a lot of Cardinals here. And we've got Bernie Miklasz and Chris Ranji. The show is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling. SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Also by Anderson Hospital. So feel free to reach out with us or to us with the voicemail app on the Odyssey app, the voicemail feature. You can leave a message there. You can on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. If you are watching the Gashouse Gang, you can leave us a message there or text the show 314-436-7900. Bernie, this is a series against the Cubs, and I think we did this during the last Cubs series, which they ended up splitting for at Busch Stadium. Now they're going to play at Wrigley Field, which is always an interesting series. And we said this last time. Oh, this is an important series for the Cardinals. They can't lose 3 or 4. You can't get swept against the Cubs. They ended up splitting, which is fine. You tread water there, which is okay. And you said you hope that they at least leave having won one of those games, and you'll still feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, because I think that's realistic. I mean, the Cubs are one of the very best teams in baseball, and even though their record has in fact been padded with a lot of wins against like the bottom 6 or 7 teams in Major League Baseball, they still have a formidable offense, and they can beat you in a lot of ways, including stealing bases. They have a great running game, and they hit for power. They're smart hitters, and their pitching, which I think is going to be reinforced at the deadline. I'd be shocked if they didn't go out and get a good starter. But their bullpen is better than people think, and it's a really, really solid all-around team. It's better than solid. They're a really, really good team. Their record indicates that. And the weird thing about it is, as great as the offense is, this doesn't really make sense to me, but their offense has been much better on the road this season than at Wrigley Field. So, if Michaelis and Libator and Fedde give them a chance, and Michaelis and Fedde are the ones I worry about, if they can give them a chance, maybe by holding the Cardinals down, maybe the Cardinals can steal a series. But I always try to be really realistic about these things. Craig Counsell does this nonsense all the time, where the Cubs still haven't announced who's starting for them this weekend. What, like the Cardinals are going to be baffled? Like when Shota Imanaga shows up tomorrow on the mound, which, oh my gosh, we had no idea he would be pitching. Some of this gamesmanship you see in Major League Baseball is just idiotic. It's just so unnecessary.
It's not like it's not like hiding your, playing a preseason game in football and you don't want to show all your cards in the preseason. Right, it's not the same thing. It's not like trick plays or an offense, how you're going to run the offense. It's just I agree with you, because yes, there is preparation that goes into it, and some players like to know a lot of information about the pitcher they're facing. Some don't like to know as much, but there is still prep that goes into it. I don't think it's the difference between winning or losing when you hold out who the starter is up until the last minute.
All 30 teams have so much information about every pitcher in baseball. When they look at their schedule, they study, they have printouts, they have readouts, they have all kinds of data. So it's just kind of silly. But, you and I have talked about this. These games against the Cubs are important because they're head to head, and it's the quickest way to cut into the Cubs lead. But the Pittsburgh series just kind of proved the point or showed us something. Well, the Cardinals didn't take care of business in Pittsburgh. If they had taken care of business in Pittsburgh, they would go into Chicago, and they would still have a hard time winning the series there. But the point is, they'd be going in there in pretty good shape.
Yeah. You'd be, 3.5 out?
Yeah.
If they had
right?
swept the series, you're 3.5 out, and you sweep against the Cubs, you're half game back, which is still tough. I don't expect them to do that anyway, but still, you would have been in good shape. You're right.
And even if, all right, let's say the Cardinals play well and they win 2 of the 3. Okay, let's just say that hypothetically. Well, then they go home for 6 games before the All-Star break. Suppose they lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, lose 2 out of 3 to the Braves, 2 teams that are below them in terms of record. Well, winning 2 out of 3 in Chicago, the benefit of that, if the Cardinals play lousy over the final 6 games before the break, well, whatever gains they made at Wrigley Field are going to be washed away.
Right.
So
Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. Tomorrow, if you want to watch the game, it is an Apple TV Plus game, so you'll need that. Heidi Watney is part of the coverage. She joins us next. Don't forget, you can listen to the game for free on 104.1 FM KMOX. Heidi Watney next on the show.
KMOX and 97.1 FM Talk are proud to support the first ever Brendan Donovan Charity Clay Shoot, happening Thursday, August 7th at Straffleman Farms Club in Weldon Spring. Join Cardinal standout Brendan Donovan, teammates, and local celebrities for a day of clay shooting and community, all to benefit Team Red, White, and Blue and their mission to support veterans' health and wellness. Sponsorships and shooter spots are going fast. Visit teamrwb.org/Donovan now to sign up. Show your support and make a difference for those who have served.
89 degrees and sunny. Well, partly sunny in St. Louis. The high will be 91. We are going to have a pretty warm weekend, all in the low 90s. The weather brought to you by Sachs Financial.
Hey, it's Jeff at Sachs Financial. Over the last 15 years, we've been able to help our clients focus on the fundamentals and tune out the daily grind by putting a great retirement plan in place. If you don't have one, find out how to get started at retiresafestl.com.
At CertaPro Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights. We can reawaken any space to make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
Named one of Newsweek's World's Best Hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life, delivering exceptional, compassionate care to families across the Metro East. From emergency services to specialized treatments, our dedicated team supports your health at every stage. Experience world-class care close to home. Discover the difference at andersonhospital.org.
Hey guys, Glover here with my very, very good friend, Dr. Kathy Maupin at BioBalanceHealth.com. If you have reached that certain age and you're just not feeling very well and nothing's working the way it used to work, go see Dr. Kathy. She is not only a medical doctor, she is a patient of this bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It absolutely works. It's a long-term solution. She is an artist when it comes to helping you with your hormones. BioBalanceHealth.com for Dr. Kathy Maupin.
Cards manager Ollie Marble joins the Gashouse Gang every Tuesday at noon. Sponsored by Siteman Cancer Center on the voice of the Cardinals. 104.1 FM, KMOX.
And the pitch. Swing and a miss. A pitch way outside strikes him out. A season-high 11 strikeouts for Sonny Gray, and his pitch count is under 80.
If you throw a complete game, it's not just on you. There's so many other people that are part of that along the way. And Pedro was, even down to that last pitch, I shook him, and then he said, "No, you don't." And then I was like, "Yeah, you're right." Got him to fly out. So everyone's a part of it. It's not just me.
Sonny Gray last Friday. Damn near threw a perfect game. He was fantastic in that game. It happened to be an Apple TV Plus game. And he was speaking to our next guest. Heidi Watney will be on the coverage of tomorrow's Apple TV Plus game as the Cardinals take on the Cubs at Wrigley Field in the afternoon. It is a 1:20 first pitch, which we are going to have right here on 104.1 FM KMOX. Go to the guest line, and we speak to Heidi Watney on the show. How's it going, Heidi?
I'm doing great. How are you? Happy fourth week, guys.
Hey, yes. Happy Independence Day week. There can't be a whole lot of more fun, even than maybe at Busch Stadium, maybe having a game at Busch, but to have a Cardinals-Cubs series at Wrigley Field, that's going to be a lot of fun on the 4th of July.
You know, when at the beginning of the season, when we knew the 4th was falling on a Friday, Wayne Randazzo, our play-by-play in our booth for Apple, was pushing for this game. Great rivalry game, Wrigley Field on a Friday afternoon. It's going to be smoking hot, but it's going to be so much fun.
Heidi, I wanted to ask you, we played, as you probably heard, we played a cut from Sonny Gray talking about Pedro Pages in your post-game interview on the field. We thought that was like the coolest thing. He was really trying to communicate how important Pages is. As you were standing there and you saw Pages coming over, what were you thinking? And what do you make of the fact that Sonny Gray wanted his catcher to be by his side?
Well, I thought that was the coolest thing because we were in communication with Cardinals PR, in the 6th and the 7th, as he was throwing so well. We said, look, we know he's kind of, they don't like to push him much past 80 pitches if they can help it. So if he comes out, can we talk to him? We need to talk to Sonny. He's the story of the game. So when the game finished, he's obviously going to be the storyline. And he just grabbed Pedro. He wasn't going to let him not walk over. And that was why the first question I asked him was why. And I knew why, but I wanted him to tell everyone why. And he did it so beautifully, talking about, and I will say, I've talked to so many pitchers in the game and so many catchers, and a great backstop. I mean, St. Louis was spoiled for so many years with Yadier Molina. You know how much that affects the pitching staff. But for Sonny to pull him over and give him that vote of confidence shows the same thing that Ollie Marmol told us in the meeting beforehand, that they love him back there.
Yeah, this is what's been going on with the Cardinals this year. There have been a lot of, I think, interesting storylines. Forget about the wins and losses and all of that. There's been a lot of really interesting stuff that's happened. So as you have covered them in the few amount of times you've been able to, have you found something most interesting about this version of the Cardinals?
Most interesting. That they really seem to be coming together and playing together well. The culture in the clubhouse, the vibe. We walked in there, hours and hours before the game, and big group of guys sitting there playing cards together. I mean, that makes a difference on teams. And when you have, young teams, or you have new pieces coming in, or you have a big superstar like we keep hearing with the Mets, big superstar comes in and he's not fitting in Queens, there's an adjustment period, especially when a guy's making that much money and comes in. And one thing I noticed last week with this Cardinals team is they all seem to be, as they say in sports, pulling on the same rope, which is going to go a long way. I mean, obviously you have to have the talent, you have to hit, you have to pitch, you have to put it all together, but that can be an it factor come October.
Yeah, so that's a thing that's such a cliche that when people hear it, they're taking it one pitch at a time, or everybody's pulling on the same rope. It can kind of go in one ear and out the other because you hear it so often. But do you feel like there are teams where that's legitimately true more than others, and it is sort of an X factor for them?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, some of my favorite teams to cover last year, because I'm a vibes person. I like to go in, I like to see everyone smiling and joking with each other and talking a little smack and having fun. And in the end, this is a game, and they're playing it every single day. You and I get breaks. We get weekends. We go on a little short vacation here. They don't. They have to see these people day in, day out. So I think baseball, more than any other sport, you have to gel and you have to be a cohesive unit. And every family has little squabbles here and there. I'm not saying you can't ever have a disagreement, but you've got to have that chemistry on the team. And the teams that I loved covering the most last year, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Mets, and when they went on their second half run, the Padres, those were all postseason teams. And yeah, they have a lot of talent. But the reason they were fun to cover is because they laughed, they smiled, they seemed to genuinely like each other. So I do think that's an it factor come, whether a team's going to be a postseason team or collapse in September.
We're delighted to be joined by Heidi Watney, who is part of the Apple TV broadcast crew. Will be at Wrigley Field tomorrow. You'll see her doing pieces before the game and, of course, reports during the game and then a post-game interview. Heidi, I wanted to ask you about this. The Cardinals, listen, as we know, not all that much was expected of them. And even though they've had some bad stretches, they're 47-41, and they're right in the thick of the wild card race. However, they've been offensively really, really, really inconsistent. And so what do you make of them? Is this just a young team that's going to be streaky? How do you see them?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I mean, we saw them on a great night Friday where Sonny dealt and the offense was rolling. But the team's been shut out in 5 of their last 8 games. I mean, complete goose egg, which is crazy to see. Now, the Pirates they ran into the Pirates' top pitchers, so you got to give some credit to that. But I do think young teams tend to be more streaky. I don't really know what to put my finger on in terms of why exactly. I'd have to, I think, watch them a little closer over a longer period of time about why exactly this group is streaky. But I know one thing with younger hitters, but that's one of the things that we talked to Ollie about last week is this is a young group, but it's been a young group. I mean, we've been watching this group for a couple of years now. All come up and come together and start playing well. And they all came up at different times, but Donovan and Burleson and Wynn and like all those guys. And this is the year they're finally putting it together, and we're seeing a little bit more consistency. But you're going to have that with players in the league. And when the pitching is there's really great pitching, and then there's like every team seems to have 1 or 2 guys that are just really not great. So there's a lot of a roller coaster of the course of a season, and it's who you catch in any given series. Like, you get Paul Skeens with the Pirates, you're going to have a rough day,
Well, yeah, except for the last 3 games. So this race, I think the division race is, I thought the Cubs were the best team coming into the division. I didn't think they were far and away better than everybody else, that nobody else could compete. I thought the Cardinals could still be, Brewers maybe competitive. But also the wild card race right now still feels very much up for grabs, and we're just past the halfway point of the season, so still a lot of baseball left. As you look at those playoff races in the National League, mostly the Central and the wild card race, what are you thinking about how things will go?
The Cubs, I think, surprised. Everyone knew the Cubs were going to be good and that they were obviously all in when they tried it for 1 year of Kyle Tucker. But to have them come out of the starting gates so good, I think, did surprise some people. They're coming back to earth a little bit now, but they're still rolling. And I expect Jed Hoyer to be aggressive at the deadline with that team because he's obviously in a win-now mode. His contract's up at the end of the year, but I also just think the fan base is getting restless, and it was time to really make a move there. So in terms of catching the Cubbies in the Central, look, it's obviously doable. I mean, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Cubs are all within, and the Reds are kind of lurking right there in that 5-game range too. I think talent-wise, Chicago probably takes the cake if they can get a good starter. They don't necessarily need an ace, but they need a top 3. At the deadline, so we'll see what happens there. And that's going to kind of be, that's obviously like a separator every year, right? What team is aggressive at the deadline and really addresses their need, and what teams kind of stand pat and say, you know what, we believe in this group, we think they can go on a run. Oftentimes that's the team that's going to pull away with the division as opposed to fall into the wild card. And there's nothing wrong with the wild card. We've seen wild card teams win the World Series many, many times. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at more in terms of just talent on the paper with the Cardinals was that wild card race. But they obviously have it, and they've got, some front line. Sonny's been great. Starters, we get to see Mike Liss tomorrow night, so that'll be interesting to see. He's kind of had a bit of an up and down year, I'd say. But the Brewers aren't going anywhere. But the wild card race in the National League is going to be the hardest race in sports. I mean, you always want to – the Dodgers said it. we think our best chance is to win the division. They put more of an emphasis, not just on getting into the postseason. And with that roster and with that, the $700 million players that they've got, just they're pulling them out of bags these days in LA, they're expected to win the division, right? So, but it does set you up with your opponents in the postseason, with being able to line up your pitching, with it being able to rest guys if you need to. Like, if you want to get where you want to get and you don't want the toughest road to hoe, you need to win that division. But I think for the Cardinals, it's going to be more wild card. But you've got the Mets, you've got the Padres, you've got the Giants are still hanging in there, and you've got, of course, the Reds and Brewers in division. And the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks aren't going anywhere. I still think they're a very good team. So that's quite a bit of teams that you're trying to fight for 3 wild card spots there.
Heidi, I want to tell our listeners, and I'm sure they know, but I just want to remind them, Heidi Watney's been covering Major League Baseball for a long time. Long time was with the MLB Network. And I wanted to ask you this because I appreciate your historical perspective. Writing columns for the Post-Dispatch, covering the Cardinals since 1989, it was an incredible time for Cardinals baseball where, from like 2000 through 2015, they were unbelievable. And you were there. I mean, I recall being in a lot of these postseason scrums after Cardinals games where, you're part of the group, interviewing players. So you saw that. You were there. What do you make of the fact that, the Cardinals, whether we call it a transition or whatever, I got to say, it's really strange for me to sort of go through a time where they're not great, because we're so used to it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your perspective on that as someone who was there during the best of times.
Well, I think the Cardinals are similar to a number of other teams that where the front office group looks at the success of teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, the sustained success of those teams, and they're like, wow, they don't spend a lot of money. They develop. They do this. They do this. Let's see if we can do what they do. And the Boston Red Sox, for being a big market, they're doing the same thing. And it's not really working because what you remember about those great teams, it's Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright and Chris Carpenter and these dudes that post, right? Albert Pujols. You've got to have some dudes on the team. You've got to have that guy in the clubhouse that's going to get in your face if you don't run a ball out. And we talked about chemistry, and I am a big chemistry, I'm a big vibes person. All of that is great. But you do have to have that guy that's going to be there. And I think that one of the things that moving Wilson Contreras to first base is going to help is it's going to help him be able to be a little bit more of a leader in the clubhouse. And Ollie talked about it last week. Without the responsibilities of preparing for a game as a catcher, as the quarterback of the game, by shifting him to first base, he can take on a little bit more of that leadership role and kind of patrolling the clubhouse. And I believe you said Brendan Donovan has been really great at that too. He's kind of growing and maturing into that role. You need some, but that's great and all. But the names I mentioned were household names across baseball. Wainwright, Pujols, Yachty. You kind of need some of those guys. And so that's one of the things that some of these bigger market teams that have been getting away from, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a free agent, but if you've got to make that trade or make that acquisition, I think maybe they were thinking Arenado might be, because he's a name when he came over, but that's not his personality to be overly outspoken. He's a lead by example guy. And you need those guys too, don't get me wrong. And Arenado is a great example to follow. But, and maybe Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn could be that guy. He just, you need someone who's going to post and put up the numbers on the field and be able to be that superstar, that what Francisco Lindor is to the Mets and kind of deflecting the attention, what Aaron Judge is to the Yankees and really all of baseball. But you need someone in there that's going to be your guy, right? And I think over the last couple of years, the Cardinals have maybe been lacking a little bit of that presence.
Heidi Watney will be part of Apple TV Plus's coverage of the Cardinals Cubs at Wrigley Field tomorrow afternoon. Heidi, we appreciate your time. Please tell Wayne Randazzo to stop big-timing me.
I'll pass that along.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
That is
Take
Heidi.
care, guys.
Heidi
Take
Watney,
care.
as Bertie says, been covering baseball for a long time, does an outstanding job at that. And tomorrow's game on TV, Apple TV Plus, so you'll have to have it in order to watch. You can also listen to the game here on 104.1 FM KMOX. Bernie, as we hit the break, tell everybody about our friends at Saliga.
Well, I'm happy to. Saliga Heating and Cooling is a Daikin comfort dealer. Just a great historically prominent family-owned business in St. Louis. In fact, the Saliga family, 4 generations of them now, Dan Saliga, the latest, have been taking care of generations of St. Louis families since 1927. How's that for credibility? How's that for building a track record? Because if you're not good at this, it's a highly competitive market for heating and cooling. If you're not good at what you do and people can't trust you or they're not sure what to expect, you're not going to be going on nearly 100 years in business in St. Louis. So they can help you. And, the Miklases have been a Saliga family for, 16, 17 years. I can tell you without any hesitation whatsoever, you can count on them to be honest, knowledgeable, professional, classy in your home. And you're never going to get hustled. They're not going to try to upsell you or try to talk you into something expensive. In our experience, multiple times they have found cheaper solutions to a problem. And that means the world to us in terms of trusting them and appreciating them. One other thing before we go, I highly recommend Saliga's Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan that's going to save you money by extending the life of your equipment. You also get some other perks, including priority scheduling. If you want more information, you can call 314-481-7333, or you can visit online at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
1 in 4 people surveyed by Bankrate.com say they're literally losing sleep because of worries that they may have not saved enough to retire. If you're ready to get serious about planning for your financial future, you could start by listening to the All Financial Hour with host Steve All of the All Financial Group.
What are your wishes, hopes, and dreams? What's retirement look like for you? Because everybody, that picture is different. If you want assistance, we can also help you at that point.
Saturday mornings at 10 or Sunday evenings at 6, right here on KMOX.
It doesn't take a lot to make a big difference.
That's why we've teamed up with Jerry Kelly Heating and Cooling to bring you 100 acts of kindness.
For the next 6 months, the Chris and Amy Show is challenging you to spread kindness in simple, meaningful ways. No big budget needed.
Write a thank you note, help a neighbor, surprise someone with a smile. It all counts.
Let's prove that kindness is contagious. Share your acts with us by using hashtag 100KindActs.
Because a little kindness goes a long way.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-207-4545. That's 800-207-4545. Once again, that's 800-207-4545.
Your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. Hi, I'm Gloria Liu, broker owner at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And for over 20 years, I've been getting my home sellers the most money for their home and selling faster than the average agent. So when you're ready to sell your home or have questions, call me.
And I'm Debbie Monterey. For years, I've been telling you about Gloria Liu and why you should call her. Gloria has solutions and programs for every seller because she understands that every situation is different. Call Gloria and get your free instant home valuation, choose from multiple cash offers, or sell with certainty this summer because Gloria will guarantee upfront and in writing to sell your home at 100% of market value, or she will pay the difference. Hey, the St. Louis market is shifting. Now is a great time to call and get to know Gloria Liu like I have. Call 314-325-6888 or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Anderson Hospital on 104.1 FM KMOX.
The pitch, a swing and a miss, and the Cardinals throw the ball around the infield. 3 strikeouts in a row for Michaelis.
Tomorrow, 121st pitch, the Cardinals and the Cubbies. They don't like saying Cubbies up there, I've heard. They're tired. Some people are tired of it. So I guess we'll say it just to make them upset. Cardinals, Cubs, Wrigley Field. Tomorrow afternoon, 1:20 is the first pitch, which means our pregame show will happen at 12:25. 12:25 will be on the air for free. And if you have the Odyssey app and you're in St. Louis, you can listen to the game for free. So if you don't have access to Apple TV Plus, you've still got us here. We have a few text messages during the. First of all, it's not Heidi Watney's fault. She's not the one who scheduled this. She's just working and doing as great of a job as she could possibly do. Sorry, the Cardinals are on a different platform tomorrow, so it'll be a little tougher to watch them. But you can still always catch it here on this show or on this station. Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji with you for a couple more minutes before we say goodbye. And we told you can go ahead and write in with your questions if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And Bill had asked a couple of different questions. One of them is, why did they send Jordan Walker down to AA for a rehab assignment, which begins today? I'd say that's probably just proximity. Springfield's closer than having him go to, I think the Redbirds are in Nashville. So the Memphis Redbirds are in Nashville. It's like a couple hours closer. That's a proximity thing. It's not. It doesn't mean anything that they send him to AA instead of AAA. So that's it. Yeah, and I think that they also want him to get more time. Yeah, working on his swing, and it really doesn't matter where he is as long as he gets the work in. He needs at bats bad because, frankly, I don't know that he's going to get a whole ton of at bats when he comes back. It's just because as long as Gorman and Burleson and those guys are all doing pretty well. It's going to be a little harder for Marmol to get Walker regular playing time. But as he told us the other day on the Gashouse Gang, he's going to try. It's not like Walker's not going to play. But Ollie's very candid. He's got to give the playing time to the guys that are earning it through performance. So that kind of puts Walker on the spot. I think they want to extend his stay in the minors a little bit longer just to give him more swings. Yeah, and look, I get it. They're giving him an opportunity, and he's got the pedigree of being that kind of draft prospect, but at some point he's going to have to perform. They can give him all the opportunity in the world, but at some point he has to do it for himself. And the other question, Bill, was directed at you. Bill for you, Bernie, wants to know who they can use at leadoff since Brendan Donovan is having a difficult time lately. Bill Downton is always his questions are always spot on. So I want to send some appreciation to Bill. That is a great question because Lars Nootbaar looked like the ideal leadoff hitter, and then he absolutely crashed. I don't think Ollie would trust him there right now, but I could be wrong. We all respect Mason Wynn, but Mason Wynn last year as a leadoff man had about a .290 on-base percentage. That's simply not good enough. Brendan Donovan is a guy who can get on base, but Brendan Donovan is going through a slump. He has really been struggling lately. And he's also not good this year against left-handed pitchers. So Donovan is not ideal at this time. I don't know what you do. Do you go back to Nootbaar? Ollie Marmol has high regard for Wynn. Does he give Wynn a crack at this? I would think certainly against a left-handed starter. So I don't know. It's a great question, Bill. Yeah, I don't know what they do either, but you can't. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't know how much it benefits you to just keep changing the leadoff hitter all the time because you don't find anybody that's working. I don't know what you do except leave them there and hope they snap out of it. Bernie will do it again next week. You're on with us Tuesday with Ollie Marmol. He'll be back at 12 o'clock, but the Gashouse Gang does return on Monday at 12. Hope to have you back then. Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji, the Dave Glover Show is next on 104.1 FM KMOX.